Hi everyone, welcome again on our channel. In today's video I wanted to discuss a little bit more the layers of experience and try to analyze or maybe explain the amount of responsibility we have within the connection as the twin flames for those each dimensions of the connection itself. So during the video I will try to really emphasize the amount of our own inner work and inner responsibility compared to this sort of divine guidance or divine interventions that happened, because those things change, and amount of our own work we have to put into actually manifesting those connections in the 3D and bringing them down to the material plane will be changing as we go through the process. So I wanted to start with this first layer of experience when we actually get activated on the journey. This moment when you got ignited into the experience. You're beginning your awakening journey. And if you remember, it seems to happen to you kind of spontaneously, and you don't really have to do much to orchestrate the process. The process has been orchestrated for you subconsciously. Of course, in a big picture, it has been involved with your higher self as well, so that it happens to you in the right place, right time, with the right person, and all of this. But you don't really have to put any work in that process to start. It's fully automatic, and again, there is not much responsibility on your side. Maybe one responsibility you had in that, or maybe one involvement, was your beginning to change your thinking process, how you refer to your life, and maybe amount of interest you have in your own journey. We start to question our life very briefly before those connections start. But it's very important to notice this involvement of the higher energies when we are still at this beginning stages, where we are connecting with another person on a soul level, and those super high energies are involved in orchestrating everything. We are just, at that moment, we are more like a marionette rather than self-aware beings. We don't really know what happens to us. And after this first moment of ignition finishes, we enter in a whole lot of changes in our lives, right? Like we enter very often the separation stage. We begin our inner work. We begin to question everything that was happening to us. We start to look more into our mental state, emotional state. We become aware of all the changes that need to happen for us to become a better person. And we are getting more guidance into how to facilitate this inner growth and inner expansion. Those are the moments that you sort of had to show some sort of inner will, inner power. And that usually happens when you begin to consciously begin to look into the experience itself. You become curious and want to find more explanations how the process goes really. So you see, this level is like a balance between divine guidance and your own willpower and interest in the journey and in your own evolution. The more we want to put these connections really in a 3D material plane, the more our own effort will be required. To the point that first, it's up to us if we want to make those connections real. So in a way, you can imagine that those connections cannot really get out of those higher states like 5D, 4D, all those non-material planes, until we consciously will be working towards that. To the point that we need to accept everything that happens on the material plane within those connections as they are. The whole connection, the whole concept thrive on truth, and this ultimate acceptance of the things as they are. So anytime we try to tweak it, or we try to make it a little bit different than they really are, or we try to escape the current state of being and this ultimate, let's call it ultimate truth, as they are presented right now in a 3D. Anytime you're not able to get to that stage, you're gonna be postponing this, I would say materializing those connections on a 3D plane. So in other words, anytime that you will try to find explanations, or maybe you'll try to avoid really facing the reality of the connection at this present moment, that will be delaying your further progress. And the best example I can think of right now is not being able to accept that at this present moment, some of the connections may not be willing to work with us. Sometimes people are falling off this journey, and that's not the ultimate end of any of our journeys. Like, we are very capable to continue this twin flame experience with another people if they are willing to. Because as a reminder for everyone, twin flame, it's more the description of the experience, energetic, mental, spiritual experience that happens to many of us, that is not really restricted to any specific person. And the sooner you will understand that, the sooner you will be able to get to this stage that I'm talking about, to materialize those connections on a 3D plane. But you see, it always starts with your acceptance of the current present moment as it is. So if you find yourself in twin flame connection, you can monitor what really happens. What are the things that you're sensing from the energetic world, or maybe from the telepathic messages? But also be aware what is the message that you're receiving on a 3D plane. What is really happening in your connection with your counterpart, and see if there is something that it's not working. Don't be afraid to accept that, and don't be afraid to get those gentle redirections as we have in the process. Because again, as I said, the more responsibility you're able to take on your own path, the sooner you will be able to slide through. Because as difficult as it seems, it's further in the journey, we'll be having less and less guidance, or maybe less and less this automatic processes that will be happening to us. It will really become more material, because we are bringing those higher energies down to here. So this is expected. So it really makes it easier to understand the whole process. Like, you're beginning to be activated first by the energies, by your own higher self. And that's a very automatic process. But as you go down, you will have to make adjustments and choices, compromises, keep your boundaries. And you will be responsible for all of that. So your evolution will be less dependent or really on the energies that they were orchestrating the whole experience. As soon as you're activated, from time to time you're even left out on your own. You may feel even abandoned or disconnected completely from the guidance, from the energies, from the universe. But you will also learn along the journey that this is also part of the process, that you have to learn to be sovereign, and you have to know when to make the right choices, how much you can accept, how much you're worthy of, and what kind of things you really cannot keep in your life in order to grow further. So this is like a never-ending lesson for us, to take more and more responsibility for us, for our own experiences here. And the moment you're showing this openness to accept and bring those connections on a 3D plane really as they are, without really twisting it, without the need to put certain conditions on that, meaning certain scenarios, certain outcomes, certain timelines, certain people, any of that. If you can get yourself out of this way of thinking and invite this kind of openness, you're really showing that you're ready to take a responsibility for the next stages. And by the next stages, I'm meaning not only like the end of separation, but you know, you can begin to talk to your twin flame, but from talking and just beginning to communicate until actually bringing this connection in a 3D and living this connection fully, this is the whole other process, right? Because you need to adjust your life, and there will be many changes that will be linked to that. So that's gonna be really the moment you're gonna be asked to make changes that are not comfortable, adjustments that you're not ready for, and you're gonna be constantly asked, are you ready for it? Are you consciously choosing this connection to be manifested, and do you want to be part of it? Because you know, it's very easy to stay in this realm of maybe communicating, maybe keeping the connection, but keeping yourself in this safe zone and just not really changing your life. And this is a zone, like a gray zone, that many people will be choosing probably, because it doesn't require you to really make a changes with your own life. You can still be initiate a little bit, and you can have your old life and new life and somehow manage those two at the same time. But this is not really what I understand by the 3D expression of those twin flame experiences and conscious experiences as we can have here. Fully embracing this experience and bringing it in 3D level require adjusting to those changes as they come and going full in. And really, it will be necessary for us to take this responsibility every step on the way. There won't be that much of a compromise that we can choose. There will be moments that you exactly know how much of a change you need to make to bring yourself closer. And with that, also I wanted to say that this is not a one-sided process. It has to be mutual. It cannot be one person that's making those compromises. Both people have to be equally involved in bringing these unions into 3D plane. It may be difficult, but the right connection, and that's how you will be recognizing the right person who is actually matching your current energy level, that they will be ready to put this effort together with you. You will not feel like you're dragging this connection further or you're doing the work for another person. It's gonna be equal attempt to bring this connection on a material level and build something together. Hopefully it clarifies a little bit. As usual, any questions are welcomed. I hope it helped to see this little difference, right? When the energies will become more and more settled, at the same time you're gonna be having more and more responsibility for what happens really with your connection. And as this first step, you will need to make the conscious choice that you want to see this connection manifesting in 3D without your projections, right? Like, you want to be surprised. You want to see how this connection was really meant to manifest from the first moment. And as soon as you do that, you will be surprised how beautifully it was really planned, but you were maybe opposing that a little bit because of the fears or because of any limitations that you had in your system. So wishing you all the best in bringing those connections into material plane, and please write any comments, any questions, or any suggestions for the topic for the next videos. Take care.